Chrysler was originally formed in 1925 by Walter P. Chrysler out of the struggling Maxwell Motor Company. He was originally hired to overhaul their operations and ultimately ended production of their vehicles and launched the Chrysler 70 in 1924. They set themselves apart by offering features most other brands were missing at the time, such as full pressure lubrication systems, mass production of four-wheel hydraulic brakes, rubber engine mounts to reduce vibration, and rigid rim wheels to keep flat tires from flying off. They became second in sales in 1949. Like most U.S. companies, war efforts brought their production lines into other innovations such as aircraft and tank engines, radar antennas, missiles, rocket boosters, among other things. The P-47 Thunderbolt fighter aircraft was the first attempt at a Hemi engine. A V-16 with 2,500 horsepower was added to the airframe, but the war started winding down prior to its production. 1950 saw the Hemi in production cars, and it's what we'll find in the Chrysler 300S that we're reviewing today here on Full Throttle Car Reviews.
Turn it off, you could very easily smoke the tires, and you'll be buying some new ones.
Shaving those miles off.
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Full Throttle Car Reviews. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the Chrysler 300S. Before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor for today's episode. Thank you, Doc, again for taking the time to review this car with us and participating in today's episode. Really looking forward to sharing with our viewers your story and what brought you to the Chrysler 300. I want to give a shout out and thank you to our viewers as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all the support and feedback so far. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, leave us a comment in the comment section. Any and all feedback is welcome and appreciated. Again, thanks again for tuning in. Let's get started. So before we get started on the outside here, I do want to talk a little bit about the history of the 300. Back in 1955, the 300 was born, and at the time it was one of America's first muscle cars that the US started to produce. Back in '55, this was the highest performing car on the market in production. So it really started to set itself apart from the get-go. It's evolved quite a bit over the years. Most recently, the SRT is kind of being phased out. That's in Dodge's court, of course, right now. But for this specific model, we're looking at the 300S. There is also a 300C, which is more on the luxury side, but the 300S is really more the sportier package that you'll see, S standing for sport. So starting on the outside here, just talking with Doc, some of the things that he really likes that sticks out for this car specifically is right out of the gate, you're going to notice the very prominent black grille on the front of the car. It almost resembles a Bentley to me, at least, so it kind of sets itself apart quite a bit. I don't know if I'm oblivious and just don't see 300s often, but when you see them, they really stick out on the road. So they have a really nice look to them. The prominent grille on the front, of course, with the nice looking headlights. You do have the fog lights down here at the bottom. But one of the biggest things that stuck out to him were the 20-inch wheels. So the rims are really nice. I think they do come with an option for 19-inch rims, but overall the car looks really, really good. You got nice character lines down the front and the side of the car on the hood, and then coming out of the back, of course, you have the rear fin that kind of sticks out as well. But overall, really nice looking vehicle. Probably the biggest part for me that sticks out again is the black grille at the front.
So stepping inside the Chrysler 300S, it really sets itself apart from the previous generations. From what I've seen and read online, there's a lot of complaints or concerns around the plasticky components that you'd find in the older models. This car certainly does not have that at all, from what I can tell. It's got a really nice combination of sport and luxury to it. The seats are super comfortable. You got leather seating and the S badging, which really makes it kind of pop and stand out. As far as room goes, I did see some complaints around the headroom and just how much room is in this vehicle, but just sitting in here, I feel like there's adequate room both in the front and the back of the car. Again, the seats are super comfortable. Leather steering wheel has a really nice feel to it. Just starting with the gauges, you do have the two analog gauges for your speedometer and your RPMs with a center digital display. The gauges themselves look really nice. They light up in blue when the car is on, and it looks pretty awesome when you're going down the road. On the steering wheel, you have the paddle shifters. So talking with Doc, he does like to throw the car in sport mode. and use the paddle shifters to control the transmission and shifting points. The center stack looks really nice. It has the black components to it as well as the carbon fiber. I really like the carbon fiber. I think it looks really, really good in this car. As far as your shifting down here, you do have the rotary knob. You know, it's a little bit different than the traditional shifter that you'll find in most cars. But from what I've seen and just sitting in it for the first time, it is seems pretty straightforward as far as how you would use it. One thing that sets this car apart is the analog clock. You'll typically find these in more luxurious vehicles, but in this one, in this 300S and in 300C, you are going to have the analog clock, which is a nice touch. One thing to note though is that the digital clock does not sync up with the analog clock, so when you are setting the time, you'll have to do both separately. Okay, so we are now driving in the Chrysler 300S. Again, I'm here with our sponsor today, Doc. Happy to have you on the show. Thanks again for letting us review your car and for taking it out for a spin today.
Glad to be here, Rich, and welcome to all the Full Throttle Car Review viewers. Yeah, as you said, the 300 is kind of a dying breed as far as the car market is concerned. I think originally I'd been driving a 2000 Tahoe for many, many years, and was looking for a little bit more reliable daily driver as the Tahoe was getting up in age and mileage and things that need to be done. So hadn't had a car in a long time and started looking around the market. Did want to try to find a V8 that looked at some sportier cars, two-door models, Mustangs, the Challenger from Dodge. Even took my son to test drive a Challenger. And as soon as he crawled in the back seat and I saw him getting in and out of the car, I knew two doors was not going to suit us. So started doing some more research, and really just not a whole lot on the market, American-wise, that are V8 four-door sedans. I think at the time, Cadillac CTS-V was an option. Dodge, of course, had the Charger, the 300, and I think that was about it as far as American-made. Then, of course, you had the European market that had offerings like BMWs and Mercedes and Audis and that sort of thing. But do a lot of my own repair maintenance, as long as it didn't get too major. So kept that in the back of my mind. Wanted something that had readily available parts and wasn't going to cost me an arm and a leg if I had to repair it. So led me to the 300. A friend of mine sent me a picture of this particular car he found online, and like I said earlier in the video, the wheels, the color, the body lines, the grille, all kind of resonated with me when I looked at the picture. So went and test drove it. Of course, good car salesman allows you to take it home overnight and see how you like it. So drove it around quite a bit, put it through its paces, and pulled the trigger on it. So
Nice. So you, coming into this car, you know, coming from the Chevy Tahoe, did you know you wanted to stick with American made, or I guess what kind of made you stick with that decision?
yeah, so you know, growing up and hearing from, you know, my parents and even the experience I saw as a kid in the 80s, you know, Chrysler, Dodge, you know, weren't that good as far as quality and long-lasting capabilities. So, you know, I definitely thought about that before the purchase, and you know, I got this kind of looking at the numbers and everything. This body style, right, started when Daimler Chrysler took over and helped the Chrysler Corporation, you know, get through its financial troubles early in the 2000s, and I think they started adopting a lot of the manufacturing techniques and some of the features and functions of the German-made brand. And you know, this 5.7 engine is, you know, it's been around quite a bit, and I think they've been through all of the hiccups and bumps they have with the new platform, right, and figured all that out. So I felt comfortable with the engine. The transmission is a ZF transmission. ZF is another German manufacturer. And this particular 8-speed transmission is used in thousands of vehicles and models across the world. So, I felt like it had enough time to get through all the bumps and bruises of a new platform release and get enough aftermarket parts out there and non-OEM parts for repair. So I felt like if something did break, pretty handy, so it wouldn't cost me a lot.
Yeah, and then with this transmission, it feels really smooth just taking it out for the first time. When you said you had it overnight, you put it through its paces, so I'm guessing that means you probably tried out the different driving modes.
Oh yes. Yeah. What really got me liking the car, I think the long wheelbase, of course, that you see from the outside helps get the car a little bit lower. The 5.7 engine is a heavy engine, right? So it sits a little bit behind the front axle, which helps in the center of gravity. When I took it around corners and curbs at a fairly good pace. There wasn't a lot of body roll, which is surprising for a sedan. It was fast enough for me, especially coming out of the Tahoe. Where I think those 0 to 60 times probably in the low 5s for this. It's a heavy car, about 4,200 pounds, 363 horsepower. But I think paired up with the 8-speed transmission and the way it revs and hits the power band and the RPMs, it does a pretty good job. It's good enough for me.
And you definitely take advantage of the paddle shifters on the steering wheel too.
Yeah, when you don't have the kids or the dog flying around the back seat, sure. Curvy roads, back roads where it's safe.
I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So some other kind of features about the transmission and engine. This particular Hemi has an MDS feature, multi-displacement system, and what it does is on highway speeds, highway cruising, it will actually deactivate 4 cylinders and make it a V4, which gives you the fuel economy, which is great. And on some trips I've seen averaging anywhere from 23 to 25 miles a gallon, which for a V8 is great. There are a couple buttons here on the console. So there's a sport button that will deactivate the MDS so it doesn't engage, so it remains V8 the entire time. It stiffens up the steering a little bit and gives you the ability to use the paddle shifters for a little bit if you'd like, and then if you don't touch the paddle shifters again, it'll go back into an automatic mode. Gotcha. There's another button for the traction control right below the hazards. I jokingly call that the button to my tire wreck account, because if you turn it off, you can very easily smoke the tires and you'll be buying some new ones.
Shaving those miles off.
Yes.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like this car is really easy to speed in.
Yes.
I was just going like 55.
Yeah, it's deceptively
just like that.
Quick.
And it is super smooth. The transmission responds really well. Let's hop on the highway here. So are we in sport mode yet, or?
No, if you want to, we can do it.
Let's do it. Shift that over.
It'll do all the things.
Switch for you automatically. Or you can downshift. Wow, alright, so we're already up to 70. Alright.
Yeah.
Get into those illegal speed limits pretty quickly on this car. Alright. And you can see which gear you're in, so we're in 8th gear right now.
Yeah, you have to, it's a pretty quiet interior, so you do have to watch the speedometer to get a sense of how fast you're going.
Yeah, so we're coming up on possible lane shift, so we can downshift real quick. Flawlessly. gotten any tickets in this thing yet, have you?
Not yet.
Knock on wood.
No, I'm not on carbon fiber. I don't have any wood.
And none of that wood grain plastic or anything.
Production numbers and brand identity began dropping for Chrysler in 2013, leaving the 300 with an uncertain future. Regardless, the 300 is a seriously bad-looking car, and it's really fun to drive. With the sport trim and leveraging the sport driving mode, this thing feels like more of a BMW 4 or 5 Series than an older town car. Some of Doc's favorite parts of the car include the raked roofline, wheelbase and design, the front grille and lights, the interior layout and dashboard design, the ability to save on gas while also having the option to burn out the tires. While he's not the biggest fan of keeping the interior clean, the seats being a little uncomfortable on long trips, the paddle shifting timing, or lacking an active exhaust for a more growly sound, overall he's very happy with this car and would recommend the 300S to anyone who's looking for a V8 rear-wheel drive sedan in today's market. As always, please hit that subscribe button, leave us some feedback if you have any. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Full Throttle Car Reviews.